this is Jocelyn. Thank you for being here. This is my personal reflection for Global Citizenship course. In this presentation, I first talk a little bit about myself, and then I will show you my process with some examples of this cultural discovery. And number 3 is the result of this process. So within my family, we already have a mix of South, North, and the Middle of China culture. And on top of that, we live in Canton, which means that we do not really recognize ourselves as typical Chinese already. We speak a different language. Our social hierarchy was not as traditional as the rest of China. And we are also the first region that belongs into the world, which means our cultural diversity is much higher than the rest of China. That's why I always have this conflicted identity when some people think that I'm Chinese, and I always want to add on and say, no, I'm Cantonese. And in that sense, that's why I find it quite difficult in doing the IDI test. Of course, to begin with, that I did the test in my second language, which will also twist the understanding a little bit. But also on the other hand is I found it quite hard to separate my different identity, because am I being the Chinese culture I was actually born in, or the born and raised Cantonese culture, or the Dutch culture that I was very comfortable in? I found it quite hard to separate it. That's why I decided not to focus too much on the result for now, but to work on what the test has revealed for me. Right after the test, I purchased the book Cultural Map, and then in one of the chapters, I read this very interesting list of how a Dutch person understands English. And it actually brought up a very funny discussion for the using of fine. I've been struggling when a Dutch person say fine with me, because in an English understanding, that's just a neutral towards a negative understanding. And as a Chinese person in me, I would, especially Cantonese, are even harder on reading the air. So I would start to look for the hidden meanings, the subtext, the alternatives that I should provide. And because of the discussion, it turns out when Dutch people say fine, it's just about okay. And the second example I have is that when I was working in the Korean project, I was watching this eating video, and I found out how this eating noise has become very annoying to me. However, in China and in Asia, eating noise are very, very common, because it's also a way to show respect for the person who cooked for you. And it made me realize how much the Dutch culture has internalized within me. And then the other example is when I see this image, and it actually happened to me once. When I asked my boyfriend to take a picture for my portfolio, he first took a mugshot because he said, you asked me to take a photo of you. And then I said, can you give me a little bit more background? And then he took the second one. And then I added on the request of, okay, can you give me a sense of environment, a sense of environmental mindset? Then he gave me the third one. In the process of working through that, like that, it made me realize how to communicate the differences of low context and high context. And those are just some of the examples. And of course, these numbers are for fun, but then it's also part of the result I realized is that I do have multiple identities within me. And in different situations, I subconsciously internalize different percentage of different cultures when I work. And then I think it would be a very neat idea if I can turn on and off some part of the culture when depending on the working or the social situation. And in order to do that, I would need a better IDI test result. And I've discussed with Michelle that in the future, maybe I can do one in my own language. And in that sense, I think my future step of development is I hope to seek more commonalities in different cultures, so I know how much a percentage I should turn on and off. And then to continue to repeat the process during working and to reflect on how to communicate those differences, or how to communicate the feelings of commonalities or disagreements in that sense. So I think that was the biggest reflection is the communication strategy, which needs to focus on what works the best for both parties instead of always focus on just talk about it. I think that's very important as well. So thank you for your time and listening, and have a nice day.